celebrate the woman of the hour, the inimitable Martine Beswick. Can you please all just join me in welcoming Martine? Yes, my goodness. So good. Now this is a treasure trove of a publication. On my way. The first question for you, darling, is what prompted you to put all of your fascinating stories down on paper to share with the rest of the world?
Well, I tried not to do it for many years. But eventually, I thought it was time. And I had friends of mine who said, listen, just do it. So I thought, okay, so I'll do it. And it took me a while, and then of course, well, maybe this goes on. Ask me some more, because I have stories to tell.
Stories is the word. Now, I've been fortunate enough to give this a little sneak peek read in preparation for today's interview. Now, this is really a collection of anecdotes. It spans decades. We have the 60s covered, the 70s, the 80s, everything else, right up until the present day. So what we've got is a real microcosm of a changing era of, well, a life well lived with about 1,000 stories. I've not counted, but approximately 1,000 stories packed into one place. But how did you first come about writing this publication and sort of collecting these stories? Can you talk a bit about the process of, working with Simon on these tales?
Well, first of all, I mean, for years, people were saying to me, you've got to do this. Decades this has been going on. You've got to write. And I kept saying, no, because, and I whined. And I said, no, I can't do it because I don't want to be, kiss and tell. And I kept saying, you don't have to do that. And I went, yeah, and I whined some more. And then finally, some friends of mine said to me, like a couple of years ago, they said, well, why don't you write about your life and about the love that you have for life, the love that you have for your friends? Why don't you write about that? And I thought, oh, okay, that sounds like a good idea. So then it was sort of, the seed was planted. Sorry. And I had approached a couple of people, one of which couldn't do it because he'd done an interview with me before and he did a fabulous job, and it was called It's All About the Fun, and it was a really good interview. And I approached him, but he couldn't do it because he was the head of a school and he had all sorts of stuff he had to do. So that was out. Then I approached another friend of mine who unfortunately got sick and I couldn't do it. So I kind of backed off. Sorry about this. And then I think Simon said it was in January. We were at a little Bond event. And I just had this after a couple of a little, shampoos. And after that, I went up to Simon and I said, I just want to put something out to you. Would you be interested in doing an autobiography, of me? And I sort of like whined again. And he said, well, I don't know, let me think about it. And the next day he sent me these questions. I was just talking to him about it. He sent me these questions and I went, oh my God, this is real. They were serious questions of what I wanted, where did I want to go with this, and I thought, okay, so I answered the questions. And the next thing, we'd set it up. And we literally set up Monday to Friday, Zoom, 1 to 2 hours a day. And basically, all I had to do was tell the stories and he typed them. Because if I had to do that, it would never have reached to this point, okay? Never. So he did this and the first,
as always, hold it closer to your mouth.
Oh, thank you. Okay, darling. Oh, you see, I should have had it up here. So then we started working, that was it. We started to work together. And it was a joy, because he absolutely said to me immediately, "This is going to be your voice." And I said, "Exactly." And that is what he's done. And where is he? Where are you, my darling?
He's here.
There. Love you, love you, love you, love you. He's fabulous. He literally made this happen. Simon made this happen. Thank you, my darling. Thank you. And, even though he thought, "I don't know about this," I said, "You're in. You're mine." And he said, "Yeah, I know. I tried to kick and scream." I said, "No, not a hope. Not a hope, darling." So we've been together on this immediately. And then, of course, meanwhile, here's what was happening. I didn't know about this, but Philip and Simon were friends, and also on the board of Bond UK, started to talk. They were plotting immediately about what was going to happen, how they were going to do this, how we're going to do this. I had no idea. Major plotting was going on. I am so glad you did. I'm so glad, because truly, my publisher, my best friend, my adored one, Philip, thank you, my darling. Thank you. Thank you. So that's how it all began, and that's what's happened.
Well, aside from the enormous contributions of everyone already mentioned, there is a very special foreword in this book. Now, I have a suspicion there's a bit of a story behind this. How did it come about that John Logan of Spectre, Skyfall, The Aviator, Gladiator fame come to be involved in this book?
Oh my God, this one absolutely bloody floored me. I mean, my darling friend Sam Irvin, basically you're going to have to get used to the fact that I have darling friends everywhere. In fact, they're all darling friends. So anyway, I get this text from Sam Irvin, who is a dear friend of mine, who I was. Is it all right now, darling?
Yes, it's fine.
Okay. So I'd worked with him like 40 years ago, just doing a voiceover on one of his films. And he texted me and said, "John Logan is mad for you. You should meet." And I thought, who is John Logan? Who knows? Then he tells me who it is. And I'm going, "But why?" And he said, "Yes, because he thinks you're absolutely fabulous and brilliant." And I went, "Oh, really? Why?" So now I discover that this is John Logan of Skyfall, which happened to be my favorite Bond film of the Daniel Craig. Really brilliant. And then Spectre, and then another favorite, Penny Dreadful. Unbelievable series. So I'm thinking, oh my God, who is this man? So he decides, so we meet, and you have to meet. So we meet on Zoom and fall madly in love. He does have a husband, and I did tell him he's going to have to share. But we start to talk, and he decides to write a tribute. And he writes this tribute to me. Well, I received this 3 pages, my horror hero. And I'm like, my heart is pounding, and I'm thinking, but what is he, who is he talking about? This is not me. What is this? And I'm literally gone berserk. And then we meet, and there's this incredible connection, and we're on Zoom, and within a couple of Zooms, we're darling, dear heart, dearest, beloved, we have become. And then he writes this and says, well, I really want to place this somewhere. So he decides to put it in the Hollywood Reporter. 5 pages of this magnificent woman who I do not know, of how fabulous this woman is. And I'm going, oh my God, who is this person? And it's all about Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde. I'm thinking, but this is really strange. And he goes into how he feels about it and what I did and my performance and what the film was about. And I am blown away. And that is what we've now become, like heart friends. I mean, truly, truly, truly. So, I mean, and it goes on, because we finally met in Los Angeles a few weeks ago, and he took me and Sam Irvin, who introduced us, to dinner at the Polo Lounge at the Beverly Hills Hotel. And it was just the most delicious, divine evening, where he adored me with caviar and champagne, my favorite.
Incredible. I mean, there are so many characters in this book. I feel one thing is obviously you're very famous for your work on Bond, and we all know her from her work in Hammer Horror, everything else. But this book starts in Jamaica with some altogether far more personal stories to do with your family and your childhood. How did it feel to bring your world on screen into a book that is equally about your personal life and your family life?
It was kind of important to do that, actually, because I mean, it wasn't just about, there's some point, there was a point when we kind of told all the stories and got to the end of all my my work, and Simon said, well, maybe this is where we need to maybe this is where we need to stop. And I said, no, we can't do that, because there's just so much more. And in fact, we started off with the childhood and the growing up in Jamaica. And interestingly, there are a lot of times that I don't remember, like early teens, but the childhood stuff, I mean, I can actually, it's almost like I had a camera that kind of turned on, and I could remember also, that I can remember even tasting. I mean, one of the things I did when I was about 3 or 4 was I ate ants, live ants, and I put them in my mouth, and I can remember, I can even now put them in my mouth, and I could crunch them and taste the acid, and loved it. I mean, that was really weird, right? So, I mean, there's all of these things that I remember that suddenly kind of were rushing forward, and I didn't have to even think of it writing anywhere or diaries. It just was there, and it was kind of fun. And also growing up in the families that I grew up in, and being in Jamaica, and I loved it. I had a really super great childhood. Truly, really great. It doesn't stop the fact that I got whacked every now and again, because that was the time when you get, you were bad, you get a good slap, not only with a strap. Not a problem, because I really deserved it. I mean, my poor mom and my poor dad, oh my God. Anyway, onward.
Onward. So one of the highlights of this book is getting that behind the scenes peek that goes beyond the film sets of the Bond films, but actually to those initial conversations that you had and meetings with Terence Young in the 1960s. Without revealing everything that's in the book, can you give a little tease as to what some of those first encounters were like for you before your whole life changed and you entered the world of James Bond?
Well, my first interview was like ridiculous, because I was completely green. I had no idea what I was going up for. I mean, I was told that I was going up for Bond, and I went, Bond? What is that? Being Jamaican, I never read an Ian Fleming and had not a bloody clue, right? So anyway, so I go up for this, and I'm put up for Dr. No. And Terence, who's sort of sitting there, and he's kind of going, well, he looks at me and he checks me out and he goes, well, you're not right for this, you're too young for this. He said, but, he said, I have an idea for you. He said, go off and get some, he literally said this to me. He said, go and get some experience. I have an idea. And I thought, ooh, that sounds nice.